What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Dylan, and today we're talking about one of my favorite Nintendo franchises, Metroid, and more specifically we're talking Metroid Prime 4 and a couple of different mechanics that you and I would like to see implemented into Metroid Prime 4 in order to bring it up to modern gaming. Obviously, this guy right here, Metroid Prime on the GameCube, came out in the early 2000s, and it's been quite some time since then. It's kind of weird for me to say, being a 90s baby. I remember the year 2000 just kind of seemed like the pinnacle of time, right? Like there is no future past the year 2000. That's impossible. But it has in fact been 2 decades, and the gaming industry and what we expect from games has changed. And so I think this is a cool conversation. So I went on Twitter earlier this week and I threw that question out to you guys. What are some mechanics you'd like to see in Metroid Prime 4? I got a couple of responses, so I'm going to go through those responses first, okay? Knock them out, and then at the very end I will add my own response, and yeah, maybe we can have a cool conversation down in the comments below. So let's just get right into it. The first tweet we got from my guy, his name is also Dylan, goes by Scotch German on Twitter. He says, optional co-op makes everything more fun to do it with friends, though I would fear that it would make a lot of the puzzles and gameplay elements not work. It would be fun, but also I can imagine a lot of moments with the first one that wouldn't work or would be ruined by it. Okay, so you say you want optional co-op, but you're not sure if it would fit in the Metroid Prime series of games, and I agree with all of that. Does co-op make games more fun? Absolutely, absolutely. Would it work in the Metroid Prime series? I don't really think so, at least not in these mainline games. If they want to do another spin-off later down the road, maybe they can try that, but you look at Metroid Prime, and let's compare it to another game that came out in the early 2000s, Halo Combat Evolved, okay? Both first-person shooters, both feature a space warrior in a full-on suit of armor going around taking out aliens, right? They sound so similar, but they are so very different, okay? In Halo, you just go from objective to objective, killing enemies. That's the main gameplay flow of that game, okay? So in co-op, it works seamlessly. It's totally fine. I mean, you add another Master Chief in there, and you just kill enemies faster now, and it's more fun that way, I think. In Metroid Prime, it's a puzzle game. These are all puzzle games, and they require a lot of upgrades and backtracking and exploration in ways that I just don't know how co-op could work. But I will throw you a bone here. I do think that Metroid Prime 4 could potentially feature some multiplayer elements in more of like the competitive scene. Maybe they throw in some like team deathmatch or something kind of goofy and fun, like some morph ball racing or something like that. Maybe throw in a horde mode. I don't know. Is it possible? Yeah. Probable? I don't think so. I think they're just going to focus on the single player experience. I personally don't think Metroid Prime 4 needs any multiplayer. If they nail the single player game and they just want to throw it in there on the side, just frosting on the cake, go for it. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. But I would hope that if they were to make a multiplayer section of Metroid Prime 4, that they don't put too many resources into that to the point where it takes away from the single player game. You know what I'm saying? So yes, Dylan, I would love co-op as well. But I agree with you. I don't know how it would fit in the Metroid Prime series of games. That would be a tough one. That'd be a tough one. The next tweet comes from Cody Middleton at CodyMiddleton98. He says, I would like some kind of difficulty slider. I also thought of Gyroscope Mechanics, but then I remembered the little bit I played in Federation Force, and they were kind of annoying. Let's start with the difficulty slider portion of your tweet. I don't see any reason why Metroid Prime 4 couldn't have a difficulty slider. You look at games like Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. That's one that comes to my mind immediately because there was a little bit of controversy when that game came out. People were wanting an easy mode in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. But putting an easy mode in a game like Sekiro breaks the game, and it destroys the message that the developers were trying to send to the player, okay? So you can't really play Sekiro in easy mode. But in Metroid Prime, I mean, it doesn't suffer from that. I don't want to call it a problem. It's not in the same situation as Sekiro. I don't see any reason why they couldn't put difficulty sliders. That works for me. Works for me. Next, you talk about gyroscope mechanics, and obviously for anyone who may be unfamiliar with gyroscope mechanics, that is when you are holding the controller and you can tilt the controller in a bunch of different ways, and depending on which way you tilt the controller, it will control something within the game world. Does that make sense? A lot of times you see this as, you know, you're controlling a platform and trying to guide like a ball through a maze or something like that. It's a fun little like mini game in most games. And you say that gyroscope mechanics can be a bit annoying and frustrating, and I get you on that for sure. So if they were to add gyroscope mechanics to Metroid Prime 4, I'd be okay with that, but let's just make it like 1, 2, maybe 3 puzzles tops, okay? Let's not make the gyroscope mechanics the main focus of the game, okay? As long as we don't do that, we should be fine, and I don't think we're gonna run into that problem, so we're good. I'm fine with gyroscope though. I'm fine, as long as there's not too much of it, okay? 2, 3 puzzles tops, and let's move on to the next thing. I will add this on though. You talk about gyroscope mechanics, and the first thing that came to my mind was motion controls, okay? I do own Metroid Prime on the GameCube, but I do not own a GameCube. I never have, and unfortunately in my younger years, I sold my Wii. Foolish. But I do like to keep this as a collector's item. I mean, it's one of my favorite games all time, so I'm glad I have that copy. The way I played Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3 was on the Wii, with the trilogy, baby. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the motion controls in this game were top-notch. Top-notch. Obviously, you did the Wiimote and nunchucks. You know, you gotta hold the Wiimote and point it at the sensor bar in order to aim your Samus's arm cannon. And I thought it was fluid, seamless. I will say, it was a little learning curve. Like, I'm talking the first 10-15 minutes of the game was like the learning curve. Once you get it down, though, it feels so good. So, in Metroid Prime 4, I really hope that there's an option to set to motion controls. I hope you can go into the settings and say, hey, I want to play with the joysticks and a Pro Controller, or I want to switch to motion controls and play with those dual-wield Joy-Cons. Okay? And I feel like the sensor bars and the Joy-Cons with today's technology would be even more accurate. I like to think that. And I feel like motion controls have been pretty underutilized in the Switch's first-party library. Yes, they use them from time to time, but I don't know, Super Mario Odyssey was like the only one that comes to mind that they really, I think, took pretty decent advantage of the motion controls. I think playing Super Mario Odyssey, dual Joy-Cons is the best way to play that game. You can play it with the Pro Controller or dock, or in handheld, I mean. But I feel like I love motion controls, if you can't tell. I love motion controls. So your gyroscope mechanics idea triggered that in my brain. I really hope that they implement that in MP4. And lastly, guys, let's move on to my own idea for something that I would like to see in Metroid Prime 4. And that is something I would call the workbench, or character customization. And when I say character customization, I'm not saying I want to create my own custom character and change their cheekbone sliders or their hair color or anything like that. Obviously, Samus is the star of the show. I'm talking about armor customization, okay? I'm talking about helmet, torso, arm cannon, and leg armor customization. Maybe give it different variations of different pieces of armor. For one thing, just so you can make Samus look the way you want her to look, whether it's really badass with like some really bulky armor, or slimmer down and really sleek and smooth. I think that'd be a cool option, just pure aesthetics. I know in the previous Metroid Prime titles, Samus does go, and really this is all Metroid games actually, Samus does get different suits throughout the game, and they do all look different or have at least different color schemes. But I don't think that's the main selling point of the Metroid Prime series of games. So if you add some armor customization into this one, I don't think people would you know, want to burn the house down or anything like that. I think people would welcome it with open arms, because now you can customize Samus, give more control to the player. I don't think that's ever a bad thing, giving more control to the player, just with some aesthetic type stuff. But if we can take it a step further, we could change the colors, but also implement some passive abilities on these armor pieces. Okay, let me throw you into a in-game example here. Let's say you're in a save room and there's a workbench. Okay, you go to the workbench and let's just keep it simple. Let's keep it simple here. You just equip all of your armor with strength boost. Okay, you a full-on strength build. You have strength +3 all the way through. Okay, you go to the boss room and you're fighting this boss, and maybe he's an ice elemental or something like that. He uses a bunch of ice abilities, and as you're fighting, you're doing good damage, but every now and then you get a slow debuff, right? He hits you with an ice attack and it slows you down. You can't go as fast because, I don't know, it's ice, and that's kind of a trope in video games, right? And so when you get slowed down, you can't dodge his attacks and you just get beat down. So you respawn and you kind of think about it and say, alright, well, let's go back to the workbench and let's equip a full agility build. This time I got agility +3 on all of my armor pieces. Let's go fight that boss again. Now when he hits you with those ice attacks, your mobility is not really affected because you already have increased agility. So you don't get slowed down, you can dodge his attacks more effectively, and while the fight may take longer because you're doing less damage, you don't die and you end up beating the boss. That's just one example that has come to my mind as ways that this could affect the game, and of course that could change the way you play in between boss rooms as well, just fighting common enemies. It could add a lot of replay value and, I don't know, make it more fun for like the hardcore gamers. I think you could have a little more customization, a little more fun with how you play the game. Other than that, and this would be a little bit more controversial, I suppose, would be customization of Samus's arm cannon. Maybe you want a full auto, or you want a single shot, or a shotgun, or a charge beam, and maybe you want to add, okay, I want full auto ice beam, or I want full auto fire beam, or I want a single shot plasma beam. You know, you could just switch it up again. It's just a ton of replay value, different ways to play the game. If you could add that kind of customization into Metroid Prime 4, I think it'd be a hit. I think it'd be a hit, but I want you guys to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you like my idea? Do you have some ideas of your own? Because if you do, I want to hear them, and I want to have some conversations down in the comments. That's why I do this. That's why I make these videos, because I want to have conversations about video games. So you guys let me know, like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.